All right, so we're live on YouTube over here and Facebook over here, and we're reading the Daily Drucker. I'm going to be reading two days here. I'll be reading February 18th and February 19th. So this will go a little bit long. The two are highly linked together, and then I'll tell you what I think afterwards. So I'm just going to go and read both of them. So February 18th is Reinventing Government. Governments have become powerless against the onslaught of special interest groups and have indeed become powerless to govern, to make decisions, and to enforce them. New tasks, protection of the environment, stamping out terrorism, making arms control effective, will require more government rather than less government, but they will require a different form of government. Government has to regain a modicum of performance capacity. It has to be turned around. And to turn around any institution, whether it is a business, a labor union, a university, a hospital, or a government, it always requires three steps. Step number one, abandoning the things that don't work, the things that have never worked, and the things that have outlived their usefulness and capacity to contribute. Number two, concentration of the things that do work, the things that produce results, the things that improve an organization's ability to perform. And number three, analyzing the half successes and half failures. Turnaround will require abandoning whatever doesn't perform and replacing it with things that do perform. So there's an action point here, and I'll tie it all together when I read the second page. Can your business profit from the government's incompetence, such as FedEx or UPS? They profited from the shortcomings of the U.S. Post Office. Okay? February 19th, reprivatization. Reprivatization is a systematic policy of using the other non governmental institutions of society to perform the actual things that government currently performs, its operations, executions of tasks, all the things that government used to take over or flowed to it that came from original private society because they couldn't handle it. So basically, it goes through a cycle where the tasks were first done by private industry, then for some reason government took over it because it made quote unquote more sense for government to take over, and now is the process of sending it back to private industry. Okay, what makes a business specially appropriate for reprivatization is that compared to all other institutions, the primary organ of a business is innovation. All other institutions were created to slow down and prevent change. They become innovators only by necessity and do it very reluctantly. Business has two advantages where government has weaknesses. One, a business can always abandon an activity. Indeed, it will be forced to when it operates in a market. What's more, out of all institutions, business is the only one in society that society will force it to disappear when it doesn't work. The second major strength is that among all other institutions, it actually has a real test of performance. The consumers, which are the ones that feed business, will always ask to themselves, what would that business's product do for me tomorrow? If the answer is nothing, naturally, you will see that manufacturer, that service provider disappear, and society will allow it to do so with any form of regret. And so will the investors. The strongest argument for private enterprise is not the function of profit, but the strongest argument is the function of loss. Because a business is the most adaptable and flexible of all the institutions around. So, what this is saying is a lot. So let's start with what government institutions essentially do, right? Remember, governments pool monies from the society, right, in tax revenues, and spend it. That's what government is supposed to do. They're not supposed to save or keep money for rainy day or anything like that. Government is supposed to spend everything that it collects because society deems the government to be more effective at spending that money. And for the most part, there's not much we can do about that unless we become anarchists, and obviously something I'm absolutely not advocating towards. But one great thing that private industry has is that if it doesn't work, it will not make any money. It won't be profitable. And if society doesn't want it, they will stop buying from that business, and that business will disappear, which is much different than government entities. For example, if you're unhappy with the U.S. Post Office, and you have a great deal of people unhappy with the U.S. Post Office, do you think it will make a difference? It absolutely would not. So the opportunity that Daily Drucker, that Peter Drucker is laying upon you, is to say, capitalize on the areas that government fails in, just like FedEx did. Now think about the IRS, or something that's close to me. It takes about 45 minutes in average to get on hold of someone with the IRS. It's actually a huge pain in the butt, me as an accountant, as a practitioner, to have to call the IRS to solve a tax problem for a client. So there's a company out there, I'm not going to name it because I don't want to give it free endorsement, and I really haven't used it. So I just want to say that I found it online, so you can Google it. You just lower the light here. There's a company out there that actually has a service that will do, has a service that will do the waiting or the holding of the IRS for you. I don't know how it works, but that's what they advertise. They call in your behalf, they stay in line in your behalf, I guess, and then once they get an agent on the phone, they connect you, saving you 30, 45 minutes of your time. Now, something that obviously government wasn't able to fix, it's not able to fix it. I don't think the IRS will get any better anytime soon, but private industry capitalized on that. They know that accountants, 1 hour, 45 minutes time is extremely valuable, and they would pay $50, $25, whatever it is, to hold an hour for an IRS agent. So that's the opportunity that's being laid upon us is, can we change government? I mean, we could, but it takes a very long time. At least individually, it feels like no one individual person can. But if you observe that there's something extremely inefficient on the way the government is doing something, or the way highly regularized or highly regulated professions do, and they do it really, really bad, there's an opportunity for you to do it in parallel, just like FedEx did. I would argue that Uber, was one of the innovators of this, right? I mean, for you to have a taxi, generally you have to have all these special licenses, and in New York City you needed this special medallion, and I'm sure some other big cities have this special medallion and permits, and you kind of have to almost be in cahoots with the mafia to be a regular taxi driver. So Uber completely noticed that this is an immense failure by not just government, but government and private industry in cahoots, doing something that completely blew people's mind. So I think that's the learning opportunity here, is that although it seems like he's kind of an anarchist and he's anti-government and he wants to make everything private, I don't think we'll be able to achieve that anytime soon. But I do think that there are plenty of opportunities for us to capitalize on to help fellow citizens that are having trouble getting something from the government, and giving that to them. And some folks would pay that premium, even if they could, quote unquote, get it for free from the government, a very low price for the government. There are some folks that would indeed pay private industry to solve a problem that the government can't, or if we can solve it better and faster than government can, that's absolutely there. That's also the reason why accountants even exist, especially for the tax profession. I mean, most people don't understand or realize that the entire tax law is open and available to the public. All the instructions on how to fill out tax returns, it's open and available to the public. But that is not enough. It's not good enough. It's not easy enough. It's not good enough. It's not palpable enough. For whatever reason, people can't do their own taxes. A lot of them can't. So they'll dish out $200, $300, $400 to a tax preparer to do it for them, because they'll count that piece of the private industry to do it better. So that's what I wanted to say. I think there was a lot of meat in those two chapters back to back, and I wanted to kind of share that with you. So I'll see you tomorrow with the Daily Drucker.